Hello my friends! It's time for me to tell you about the epic that led me to realize with great difficulties the Extasium. Since 1981, my interest in hi-fi has naturally led me to be interested in acoustics. The room I was experimenting in was a real disaster for an acoustician. However, it's a beautiful living room. Two large doors open magically into this almost square room of 4 meters wide and almost a cube with 3 meters under the ceiling, surrounded by beautiful moldings, late 19th century. Opposite, another double door gives access to my room. On the left, two large odd windows. On the right, opposite the windows, another double door gives access to a corridor, with another window on the left in this corridor. With the parquet floor, it all vibrates with the music, and the proportions of the room are championed for annoying standing waves. A real headache. I began by removing the double doors from the corridors, which became an extension of the room, allowing an acoustic escape. Then I made a corking which evolved over time on all its surface, the window of the corridor, condemning it. I had installed thick curtains on the windows to dampen the vibration and covered the walls with thin cork sheets in dark brown. It was sumptuous, but a little too dark. In addition, in the long run, I found the sound a little muffled, a little corky, and I painted it. Its acoustic capabilities have disappeared. I then experimented with different materials to improve listening. Some solutions, if they were interesting from a decorative point of view, were rather absurd from an acoustic point of view. I experimented with painted layer on the walls. Layers and layers sanded between each. What a job! I was definitively disgusted with each, and also with the black crepe paper arranged in overlapping plates with slits like old skirts, dust nets, and almost no action on the sound. I realized that everything in this room has an impact on the sound that I was becoming more and more consumed with. I have disassembled several times arrangements intended to correct the defects felt in the listening. Each time I have made an harmonious and neat decoration, and it was always with a pinch in my heart that I had to undo everything and start again. There will be many more versions of the Extasium before it's completed. Until the end of 1984, I devoted a lot of time to the acoustic of the room. Not being satisfied with my previous attempts, I decided to start from scratch and remove everything on the walls. But instead of listening for a moment to see if it's better, my visual artist spirit prevails, and I attacked, after several studies, a large painting directly on the walls and ceiling. On the lateral sides, I paint a large blue sky graded downwards with some small clouds and a gigantic cloud in the shape of a character. He seems to have his arm open to welcome us into his art. His head and massive body are haloed with a kind of rainbow made of pearls of degraded colors, going from the left wall to the right wall through the ceiling. Big unnecessary work on the acoustic level, and I should delete it. Sheila, A little Franco-American girl, a cross between Africa, Asia and Europe, with whom I had had a love affair without much follow-up, had come to visit me. After she left, I realized that she had forgotten a mother-of-pearl earring, a half-sphere about 20 mm in diameter. Rightly or wrongly, I think it must be a sign. I quickly got the idea to apply it to the middle of the wall on my right. It's amazing how much such a small volume affects the sound when it's positioned in the right place. So I went looking for mother of pearl half sphere at fancy pearls stores. Then I stick them gradually and listening very carefully each time, in the middle of the wall panels and the ceiling. The sound is transformed. This is the beginning of a crazy story. Thinking that the effect would be more consistent with more half spheres and larger sizes, I buy molds in 6 sizes from 3 to 14 centimeters in diameter. I then pour molding plaster into each. This is a household disaster. Every time I open the package, very carefully in my kitchen, the plaster dust is so fine and volatile that I find it all over the apartment despite the closed doors. Then, when the plaster has set, I remove from the mold and to speed up the drying process, I heat them for a while in the oven of my gas stove. Once dry, I paint them in old gold. When they are ready, I glue them in 6 concentric circles spaced out and increasing in size around the small mother of pearl starting piece. I listen carefully to each line. Sounds good. I continue. I install others on large medial panel, 60 centimeters by 1 meter 80, 10 millimeters thick, painted in blue or white or red, which I hang on the back walls and the immediate side. To add to the delirium, after observing that in some large concert halls there were sloping panels on the ceiling, I decided to hang several of them at various angles to mine. I am alone from the installation, which turned out to be very difficult and dangerous. But in spite of a lot of anxiety and strong emotion, I managed to put them in place. The weight of the medium plus the weight of the plaster balls. But that's not all. I had a line of medium half ball around the cornice, making like an antique frieze. With each part that I set up, I listened to the result before going further. Each time, it sounds good to me. To make it even more spectacular, I installed on the ceiling, in front of the sloping panels, a large wheel made of open work medium, about 1 meter 20 in diameter. Large cork spoked support balls of increasing size on a blue and red background. A lace cut circle support medium balls around the edge, and a smaller one supports another line of balls. I will take it a step further by creating 2 more wheels positioned in the middle of the left and right walls. In total, it's about 1,000 half spheres that I would have made one by one, painted, put in place, and listened to. The entrance in the room is very impressive and provokes an extraordinary sensation. All this gold on blue, red, or white background is beautiful. It looks like an ancient or futurist temple, fairy tale, or science fiction. October 31, 1994. Daddy visits me. His visits are rare. Also, he doesn't understand what I do and doesn't try to understand. Once he even told me that he didn't want to hear my explanation. He is interested in my pictorial evolution, especially when it allows me to be talked about in the media. The sessions goes well, and he invites me to a nice restaurant afterwards. Everything is fine, but already, while walking down the street, there is a tension that increases during the meal until the limit of the explosion. I know that our relations have always been more or less strained, which was one of the reasons that kept me away from the family business. That I have a tendency to be too reactive, too weak to lash out, to be angry, while coming down very quickly, without rancor, hot-headed. However, tonight the aggressiveness was very, too important compared to the motivations. After his departure, I realized that it was not normal, exaggerated, disproportionate. Why? Thinking about it, I remember that Frank, too, a Dreammaker participant, had been overly aggressive without any real reason at certain moments, and other people too. The only thing they had in common was that they were listening in the extasion. I myself have been feeling nervous for quite some time. I get it. It's the bars on the wall that cause these unpleasant reactions. The distortion of the sound waves into a multitude of small spheres causes aggressiveness in the listeners. As soon as it's down, it's taken down to replace them with what?